Welcome, everyone, to episode 71 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I'm your host, a zero at life, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, a man who can't paint his entire body with invisible paint, Kyle Hoagland.
Who the shit said that? Is that a Larry thing?
That is a Legend Larry quote, if I ever heard one.
Oh man, he is no Bobby the Brain Heenan. What's going on, man? We are in the thick thick grass of 1999 WCW, and it's starting to show.
Oof, yes, it is. This is, you made a comment, I want to say it might have been last week's episode or possibly the week before, but you said something at this point in 99 when you were watching this, you were like 80-20 in favor of WWF. And I want to say, like, the more I watch this, like, after the finger poke of doom, I really feel, and I know that's, like, kind of cliched, but I really feel like that's about the time I really stopped paying close attention to WCW. I mean, I still remember some things, I know I was still here when Stacy Keibler was around a little bit. I know I was witness to some of this, but I know the Vince Russo era, I did not watch it all back then, so I'm at least out by then, and I know I was still watching Raw at the time, but, boy, July of 99, it's getting rough.
Well, not only is it getting rough, but I made the joke, or I made the thing where I feel like I was like 80-20 WWF. I think WCW was 80-20 WWF at this time as well. This is, like I said, I don't remember too much of this, and we are now in the territory of, like, in 98, maybe we don't remember a lot of what happened on particular Thunders, but we understood the gist of, like, the storylines and what was going on. Like, even if we knew all about the whole, like, Rodman and Leno and Bischoff and Goldberg's streak and all that good stuff. The Wolfpack versus the Black and White. The storylines, though we might not know all the specifics in the matches, especially when it pertains to Thunder, but we still had a reasonable gist of what was going on as the overarching story that was trying to be told. In mid-99, I think now we are in, like, in the untested waters of our subconscious, where maybe we were watching WCW, but I think now that I think about it, post DDP winning the world title, this all feels alien to me.
It really does. That said, let's just get into it. It is Thunder 71, July 14th, 1999. We are pre-taped, and we jump right into this pre-taped Thunder. We've got our opening bout. It's Vampiro and Van Hammer. We find out that, of course, we're post Bash at the Beach. We find out that Savage won the world title in that tag team match from Hell on Sunday, and naturally, in typical Macho Man WCW fashion, loses the world title the following night to Hulk Hogan. So here we are. Hogan is your world champion.
You know how Hogan didn't have a match or anything for months and just gets a world title randomly and wins it? That's just, go with the formula that works, I guess.
And now Kevin Nash, of course, the number one contender for said world title, because why not? And, as for this match, the biggest takeaway I got was Larry Legend fat-shaming Mickey J here. And Vampiro is going to do a top rope cross-body for a 2 count and then immediately do like a stupid curl-up for the actual 3 count.
Not stupid curl-up. That is what we call the Booker T victory roll.
Yeah, it really is. I gave the match 2 stars. I thought it was okay and fine.
How dare you?
But the ending of that match was totally pointless, and I know you hated it much more than I did.
I did, and I know it can be funny to make fun of the Wrath Hammer match of the night, which is now this literally is the 1999 Wrath match of the night. It feels like it's Van Hammer has been the opening bout of Thunder. I think this is like the third week in a row. I gave this a 1.5 stars, and the main reason why is because when you don't like a match and you're like, okay, like let's just get this over with, the last thing you want to do is see it for 11 fucking minutes. And that's what we got. It was 11 minutes. I can never get back. Almost none of the moves done in the ring looked good. In fact, there was a lot of parts where it just felt like both of them felt uninspired. It looked like they didn't give a shit. And there was just, it wasn't like they had botches. It was just poorly timed, just no impact. Everything that they did just felt like it didn't hit flush. It just felt like, there's one thing about being choreographed or over choreographed. There's another thing where it's just like they're just throwing each other around for the sake of throwing each other around. It just didn't look good. And I understand that I shouldn't be judging Van Hammer and maybe even Vampiro at this point, but I've seen better Van Hammer matches and I've seen better Vampiro matches. So, and I think the biggest thing about this whole thing is who gives a shit about this match? Why is this televised? Vampiro versus Van Hammer is a house show match. There's, Vampiro has a really small amount of momentum with the crowd. Yeah, he seems like he's sort of a face, even though because it was taped and something happened on Nitro where Vampiro kind of went heel and threw a chair at Conan. But he's playing the face on this Thunder taping because this was done before the Nitro. So it just makes it even weirder the way it goes. But this match gave benefit to nobody, and there's no story being told. It's just two guys wrestling at the beginning of the show. And I think the worst part about the whole thing was that Vampiro gets the win. Cool. All right. Vampiro gets one up over Van Hammer, the former number one contender for the TV title. And then Van Hammer just squashes him after the bell rings. Like after the bell is rung, after the match is over. So does that mean this is going to continue? Does that mean that because of this that Van Hammer, or is this just to establish Van Hammer as a heel again? I'm not sure. But either way, both ideas suck.
Yes, and if you thought that first match was terrible, you're in for a big one as Rick Fuller's in the next match wrestling Sick Boy.
Former number one contender for the U.S. title. Two-time former U.S. number one contender.
And how about we talk about Sick Boy here? He's got blonde hair. He kind of looks like Dolph Ziggler a little bit.
Yeah, I put in my notes, he looked like if Dolph Ziggler and Stevie Richards had a baby and that baby wore a Goldberg tattoo.
The most interesting thing we find out during this match is that Sting and Flair are going to wrestle for control of WCW. Dennis Rodman is going to show up on Nitro. Insane Clown Posse is going to be on Nitro. And as for the match itself, we get a springboard into an elbow that gets Sick Boy super jacked as he gets a 1 count. And then there's a top rope chest slam from Rick Fuller, who gets the 3 count. Rick Fuller just won clean match on Thunder, and I gave the match 2 stars.
This is the second. How dare you? First of all, no match where Rick Fuller goes over it should get 2 stars. The only way that Rick Fuller gets over is when he loses in a good fashion. I gave it a 1 3/4. I think I put in my notes, did Sick Boy lose a bet? Because Rick Fuller, I don't think I've ever seen him win in my life. And Sick Boy, who now, once again, he's got this new look. He's going to try this new persona. It's kind of like the new Riggs. Let's try this out. Let's see how it goes. And it just looked terrible. I think I've seen better booked matches on WCW Saturday Night. This match had the same issues as the first match. Moves were not fluid. Neither of them really felt like they had the chemistry. It's almost as if they haven't wrestled in months. and according to TV, they haven't. And once again, no one gives a shit about this match. Who gives a shit about the new look Sick Boy and Rick Fuller, who we haven't seen probably since he probably lost to Goldberg for the second time while he was a U.S. champion. So the only reason why I didn't give this a star and a half like the match before was that at least this match wasn't 11 minutes long. This is like the one time where shortening the match actually made this match better.
Yeah, can't argue with you there. So after this, we've got six-man tag, so this is shaping up to be a good one, Kyle.
Well, what's interesting, before we even go forward, this is a taped, once again, it's a taped Thunder following probably a pretty hype pay-per-view and Nitro, and we haven't seen
Would you call it a pretty hyped pay-per-view?
Well, I only say this because it's a pay-per-view. So, I mean, like, this is whether or not it was hyped or not, there's stuff to talk about. There's at least something to go over and discuss. Whether it's a good or bad pay-per-view, there's still shit to talk about. And we are now on match number 3, and we have gotten dick in recap on either Nitro or the pay-per-view.
Well, what could you ask for more than a six-man tag? You have Steve Regal, Fit Finlay, and Dave Taylor wrestling the No Limit Soldiers of BA, Chase Tatum, and Swole.
All right, I'll let it go for now.
We will get our first replay, though. It is the First Family attacking Fit Finlay on Nitro as he was being presented the trophy because Fit Finlay won your Hardcore Invitational. But Jimmy Hart and the First Family are going to run off with the trophy. So there's your replay. That's the action you were talking about at the pay-per-view.
So let's review that real quick. So Jimmy Hart is in charge of this invitational, right? He's recruiting all these people.
That's correct.
To get into this match. Fit Finlay ultimately wins a match that was created by Jimmy Hart with a trophy that was probably thought up and presented by Jimmy Hart. But then Jimmy Hart then unleashes the First Family and steals said trophy that was his to begin with, that he was supposed to give to Finlay. The storylines are just so fucking fantastic on this in WCW right now. Like, what was the point of creating your own invitational and then ultimately stealing your own prize away?
Hey, you know what? Jimmy Hart makes his own rules. All right.
Apparently, Jesus Christ.
As for this match, it drives me nuts every time Mike Tenay says a scoop and a slam instead of just saying scoop slam. I don't know why, but he's always saying a scoop and a slam, which Swole, when he got the hot tag, he did a few of those scoop and a slams, and he's going to do the heart punch for the 3 count. And this has been my match of the night so far, Kyle. I gave it 2.25 stars. I hate the heart punch as a finisher for Swole, but I gotta give him one thing. The crowd is hot for BA, Chase Tatum, and Swole, and for that, 2.25 stars.
I gave it 2 stars. I think BA was your MVP because he was the only wrestler on that side that probably had the ability to be in the ring for any longer than 30 seconds. Chase Tatum has a good look. He's about as green as Godzilla shit. I would love to see Chase Tatum take on. Yeah, thanks, Dean. I would love to see him fight David Flair to a 30-minute TV draw. Also, my heart goes out to Regal, Taylor, and Finlay. Just the combined wrestling acumen of those guys, and they had to job to a palm strike to the chest from Swole. That's just, I hope they got a good payday, because that's the only way that they're going to swallow that pill.
Yep, and I'm sure they did. After the match, we got our second replay of the night. It shows Flair and Sting. They're talking shit to each other. Sting wants control of WCW. Flair says he is the boss, and Flair agrees that if Sting can beat David Flair first, he'll give him this shot at a match, which of course Sting is okay with. He naturally locks the Scorpion Deathlock on 1 minute into his match with David Flair, but Charles Robinson is the ref and ignores that David Flair's tapping out. This leads
it's kind of a dick move to do that to David Flair. Like, he's just going to let him just keep him in the Scorpion?
Yeah. Scorpion Death Drop then for Charles Robinson. Sting and Ric Flair then get into it. Rick and Asia take Stinger splashes. And so that apparently set up the David Flair or the Ric Flair and Sting match. So I don't know if that meant David Flair actually lost his match. I hope not, that streak. I hope still alive, but maybe it did. We then go into our next match, United States title on the line, Kyle. David Flair, of course, coming to the ring with Asia and Rick. He's defending the title against number one contender for the United States title, Bobby Eaton.
Who looks like they dragged him out of a Denny's and gave him.
He looks like a creator wrestler, like the generic creator wrestler before you like create a wrestler.
You ever seen those like oh god, I can't remember what they're called. They're action figures, but like they have like the little like hump on the back where if you push it down, they jump up in the air, type of thing. But because of that, they have like a protruding front stomach in order to make sure that the back and the front are stable and can stay standing. That's what Bobby Eaton looks like.
Well, that's probably the only time he's ever been referred to in such a manner.
That's what this podcast is all about.
As for this match, of course, they make mention about Bobby Eaton and Ric Flair are friends. Bobby Eaton kind of goes buddy-buddy with Rick a few times. Flair's going to slip some bills into Bobby Eaton's tights after he was taking it too hard on David. But Bobby Eaton still doesn't lighten up, so Ric Flair like really pulls out his trunks and really shoves some cash down into his dick. But Eaton still does it. He's going to go to the top rope, but they're going to stop it. Asia's going to lay on the ground instead of David Flair, which I thought was really weird. Like she was going to take the top rope move instead. Eaton hops down. He's going to talk to Flair. Asia's then going to give Eaton a low blow, and then Rick's going to take a low blow from Asia by accident. Why? I don't know. David Flair's going to win this with a figure 4 while Flair continues to sell the low blow. I gave it a star and 3/4, and I'm probably being way too friendly with it. I was okay with the money bribing aspect, but then what the hell's all this with, like, why was Asia going to take the fall? Why did Ric Flair take a low blow? What is happening here?
So I can at least answer why he got a low blow. So Bobby Eaton got that first low blow from behind, and then Bobby Eaton then faced Asia, and Ric Flair like pulled back Bobby like kind of like full Nelson'd him to keep him in one place. And usually when you do that, then you get like free shots of hitting him like in the stomach or in the chest, like he's exposed. But instead, Asia went down again with the low blow, and because Ric Flair was so close up to his chest to back of Bobby Eaton, that when Asia did the low blow, it hit both of them at the same time. So that's why Ric Flair took the low blow as well. Kind of, it was comedy, but so I think this is the first time. I could be wrong. We could go back. I think this is the first time I've given a 1 star to a match. I could be wrong, but I think this is the lowest I've ever given a match. I give this 1 star for obvious reasons, but I feel like I still have to stress them. At this point, I understand the story of David Flair just getting free wins, and that was all well and good when he was just fighting people and building himself up. He's the U.S. fucking champion. Like, who are we to believe that, first of all, Bobby Eaton is the number 1 contender, because he's fucking not. The shenanigans were stupid. The wrestling was stupid. The whole thing was stupid. And the only reason why I'm so angry about it is because you would think of anybody, stupid shit going on in the ring with Ric Flair, at least it might be endearing and just fun TV, but this wasn't. Even Ric Flair could not save this segment of the show. 1 star.
Do you think Rick realizes this? Like, he has to know that this is hot garbage that's going on with his son right now.
Look, I'm not even saying that. It is, but that's not what I'm getting at. The whole David Flair being not ready to be in the ring and giving him the U.S. title is like, there's one side of it, which is it's really insulting to take the second biggest title and just put it on somebody that clearly is not ready to be in the ring yet. I mean, hell, even putting in the TV title on that would be, somewhat insulting to Prince Iaukea. But the problem, I think the big problem here is that if you're going to tell a story, that's all well and good. But I think there's something to be said about the best angle you can come up with for the U.S. title is take my son who can't wrestle and just hand him the title and have him get heat over it. But the problem is David Flair himself isn't generating dick. He is a lukewarm blanket. He doesn't speak. He doesn't show any emotion. He just looks around.
Do you find that weird, too, that he has no charisma to him when his dad is fucking Ric Flair?
I mean, I can only believe it if David Flair really doesn't want to, like, well, maybe he wanted to be in the business. He wanted to work with his dad, but apparently, I don't know, man. It's once again, like, you're not always your dad. So, I mean, Ric Flair is a once in a fucking... I get
that, and I get he's not going to be, on the same level as Rick, but he's not even on, like, Dean Malenko's level.
You're right. I mean, he is basically Dean Malenko, except the only difference is Dean Malenko can wrestle sleep. He can wrestle in his sleep. So that's the only reason why we give Dean Malenko a pass. So once again, we've got a guy with no charisma, no natural story, no way to naturally get heat or draw from the crowd at all. He has the second most prestigious title in the company, and here's where we are. And it's insulting. It made sense for a while. I would have been more excited about him having the title if it screwed over another wrestler and thus created a story of resentment. But it didn't. He just was handed the title, and because of that, he has no story to build upon that has to do with the title he's holding. So it sucks to have somebody with the U.S. title be in this purgatory where his dad is the story, not him.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, this title hasn't had a real story in God knows how long. At least we know who the United States champ is right now.
Well, and that's the thing we didn't know like 4 weeks ago. And well, the thing is, there was no one. I think last time we knew, I think it was Scott Steiner. And then I don't know what happened to Scott Steiner.
He got hurt or something, and that's why they stripped him.
Yeah, so it was. I think there was a point where it was like, I think it was Bret Hart, then Roddy Piper, then Scott Hall, then the U.S. title tournament. That what's the hell? Who the hell won that? Steiner, and then it was Booker T, and then back to Steiner, and then nothing for like what felt like months, then David Flair, which once again was just handed the belt on some, just promo in the ring with Ric Flair on a Nitro.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. This whole thing is just it's something else. But that said, after the match, we get our third replay of the night. We're on Nitro. It's Vampiro and Konnan. Vampiro was disqualified as he beats on Konnan. We then cut to the Cat, who hits Buff with a shoe, and Sonny Ono is counting a 3 count. We then see Kidman missing a shooting star press where it looks like he might have slipped, but he still curls up Regal for the 3 because Bischoff came out and made the count. We then see Stevie Ray coming in to help Booker T against the Triad. So apparently we got our entire Nitro recap in one fell swoop with like cut to cut to cut. I was like so fucking lost after a second.
But it was all like mid-card talent storyline. Which
that's the other thing, yeah.
Once again, I don't know why they showed Kidman with Bischoff. I don't get that yet. I mean, I'll say this: Kidman botched the ever-living shit out of that shooting star. Like that could have been really bad, and luckily it wasn't as bad. But it was it was in a nothing burger match against Steven Regal, and then the whole idea of like, I didn't know that Buff and the Cat were feuding, but apparently they are. Once again, I don't know why I would care, but hopefully give me a reason. Even if it's just a comedic one. That's the only thing I can think of, is that hopefully these two guys will be some sort of comic relief that I think we sorely need. I am interested in the whole Booker T Stevie Ray thing, just because I think Stevie Ray just needs some reason to be on television. I think he realizes hanging out in the NWO black and white locker room is not doing it for him anymore. So all these things are interesting. And also, as I said, the random, I don't know if whether or not the botch was on purpose, because then Bischoff just kind of comes in the ring to see if he's okay, which I don't know if he did that, if he would have done that anyways. That's just a weird thing for Bischoff to insert himself into the TV, even though he was at commentary. So I don't know what feels like a work and what feels like, oh, this is just, legitimately, I'm the president. He's a guy that works for me. It looks like he really hurt himself, so I went in there to check on him, even though they have trainers and medical staff there to check on him if that was really the problem. So it was just wait, why did Bischoff, count a 3 count? Where was the ref? Like, a lot of those things we didn't really get answered. And hopefully there is some sort of payoff. Because if not, that's a really weird interaction with Eazy-E.
It was very weird, but I don't know if it made it seem more real if hey, the president's coming out to check, the real president or something like that. So I don't know. It was strange, but after that we get Kidman in a match against Mikey Whipwreck. We also find out that Kevin Nash and Hollywood Hogan is official, Kyle, August 14th. So a month away, Road Wild, Nash and Hogan. As for the match, Kidman's going to hit the shooting star press, get the 3 count. I gave it 2.25 stars. It was a solid match, but I didn't think it was anything too special. Though it was probably your match of the night at this point.
Oh, it was easily
a whole lot.
Easily match of the night so far. I mean, who knows? Maybe the main event will be better. But you're right. It's not saying much. I gave it 2.5. Obviously, 2 very capable people in the ring. Not a lot of mess ups. We also found out that Nick Patrick murdered his mullet. So now I'm pretty sad. Now he looks like Tom Selleck now. So Nick Patrick's just trying out a new look. Also, Larry body shaming Mikey Whipwreck as well. He was asking about is Mikey Whipwreck a cruiserweight? He was oh no.
Well, and then he also made that comment about painting his body with invisible paint. This was this part.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. So yeah. So I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I understand that not everyone's going to have the living legend's body, but man, Mickey J and Mikey Whipwreck are, they're not safe. They're not safe from the vitriol that's coming from, the living legend. Once again, though, my problem is the booking. This isn't doing either guy any favors. There's no qualms with one another. This is just a kind of a workers match. Kidman is in this weird purgatory where he doesn't have a belt. He's not in any engaging story. He's not going for any other title. So I don't know what the fuck he's doing. And I don't think WCW knows what the fuck he's doing. So they just keep putting him in matches just to be okay, here's a bunch of dog shit that we just booked. Let's bring him back in with Mikey Whipwreck or something like that. And I'm still convinced that the only reason why Mikey Whipwreck is in WCW is so he doesn't go back to the ECW. I don't know what that there was a rumor and innuendo back in the day where a lot of these signings of ECW talent, mainly those guys like Mikey Whipwreck and Hack and people like that, or Sandman, were basically just ways of getting there's a certain pocket of wrestlers, or I'm sorry, wrestling fans that were really into obviously the extreme stuff. And Mikey Whipwreck had kind of almost like a grassroots type of fan base, almost like a Daniel Bryan type of fan base, where maybe he wasn't the most prolific wrestler, but he kind of gathered his own following. And obviously Sandman is an iconic ECW wrestler, so you kind of pick up a couple of those guys. Raven, back in '97, it's almost like they're just trying to pick apart whatever talent they could grab from ECW, just so they would be able to say, hey, look at our legitimate hardcore division that we're now somehow creating, and thus also giving Fit Finlay the first win in the Invitational, which, if you're thinking hardcore, you think Fit Finlay.
Hey, I mean, when we're outside the ring, that's where there's nobody else that likes to brawl like Fit Finlay.
Hey, man, if Lee Marshall says it every week, it's got to be true.
After the match, though, we get our fourth replay of the night. It's Randy Savage on Nitro. He's challenging anyone to wrestle him for the world title except for Kevin Nash. This is where Hogan's going to accept the challenge. Nash is okay with it. Sting and Nash both end up helping Hogan win the title against Savage. And Nash says the shark is back in the tank, which makes absolutely no fucking sense to anyone, including commentary.
Yeah, I didn't get it either. I you know what it is? You can tell that there wasn't supposed to be. There was a spot at the end of the show that was Nash, challenging Hogan, and just Nash was just allowed to talk, whatever he wanted to say, and it was just a jumbled up mess of basically Nash saying, "Hey, you listen to me. You listen to me. Hey, I'm telling you something right now. You listen to me." And then it was just then the shark is still in the tank, and like, God, I just wanted to be like, the cream rises to the top, brother. I was waiting for some other stupid shit for him to say, but it wasn't Kevin Nash's best on the spot mic moment.
It was not. We then moved to our main event match, the Jersey Triad, defending the tag team titles against Kurt Hennig and Barry Windham. Jersey Triad's going to say their bada bang things. The match is going to give us 14 minutes or so once the bell rings, which is a lot of time for a lot of good workers here. We then find out that the Triad can use Triad rules, but apparently the Rednecks can't use Rednecks rules. And we find out it's because the Triad, or they're buddy with Ric Flair, where the West Texas Rednecks are not. The match is actually solid for a bit until eventually all 7 men are wrestling, and that's when Billy Silverman's seen enough, throws the match out. I gave it 2.25 stars. I thought it had potential, but I was really not hoping for a match to be thrown out like this on a main event.
I feel like you didn't watch this match because a couple things about this. I gave it 1.75 stars. It's a heel versus heel match as the main event for a title. Already, this is
it is, but I understand where you're going to go with this. But I will say they're two different types of heels, which is why I was okay with it. But I can understand why you would have an issue with it.
So my biggest issue with this is the structure of this whole tag match. So yes, I understand that the Jersey Triad, and because they are kind of in bed with the president, that they are allowed to tag in, the three of them, and Silverman's supposed to know that, and Kenyon does. He gets tagged in, but then all of a sudden Kendall Windham gets tagged in, and then Bobby Duncan Jr. gets tagged in. So now Silverman is letting everybody tag in legally into this match, which just fucking pissed me off. Because now this just becomes a farce. Like, this just becomes a stupid, dumb match. The whole point of the Jersey Triad is that whoever's challenging for the title has to beat all 3 guys. I actually don't mind that stipulation. I actually think that's interesting. But the moment that, like, if you decide to let anybody do it, then it takes away from the heel heat of being like, hey, they're taking advantage of this stipulation that really shouldn't be, so the other side has to kind of overcome the odds. And like, we get back from the commercial break after we found that like Bobby Duncan Jr.'s in the match now, and Tanay's like, well, apparently this is Triad rules, which means both sides are allowed to tag in, and Silverman's totally fine with it. And I couldn't stand that, because that goes against the Triad rules. Like, that's not Triad rules. Triad rules only apply to the Triad, and yet all 4 guys. So this went from being like, okay, let's see if these 2 guys of Hennig and Barry Windham can beat 3 guys, to okay, now this is just a stupid, overbooked 4-man versus 3-man tag, and for the tag titles. And it just, once again, it just became convoluted and stupid. And oh man, it's just, if you wanted the entire show to suck, I guess you might as well make it, such from beginning to end. Because yeah, you're right, this could have had decent potential, but the moment that this, Silverman's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna let everybody tag in with anybody, it just really took it out of me.
Well, I would ask what your overall thoughts are because, this is the point of the show where we talk about what you thought about Thunder, but I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. But that said, what'd you think about this week's Thunder?
It was okay. No, dude. This was, not only was this a bad Thunder, it was a sad Thunder. Like, I felt bad that this was on television. I mean, take away, and yet for some reason also including, the Kidman versus Whipwreck match, which I think I rated the highest, and I'm sure maybe it might have been the highest for you, but it was close if it wasn't. You have what may have been the most poorly inspired card you'll ever see, with pretty bad wrestling on top of talent we don't give a shit about. Like, at this point, what is the point of even having Saturday night? Saturday night gets a better card than Thunder. Like, this is supposed to be a complimentary show to Nitro. It's supposed to help move along storylines. It's supposed to, have relevancy to what's really going on the flagship show. Now, and that's supposed to be at the very least. At its best, it's supposed to be like, hey, this is what happened on Nitro, and now you got to check out what's going on in Thunder because, we're continuing the stories from Nitro. So if you watch next Nitro, stuff might have happened on Thunder. Like, that was the whole point of Thunder. But at the very least, you're at least complimenting Nitro and, helping move the needle in some ways. Like, you tell me in any of the matches that we saw today, what storyline was being told. And I understand, once again, this is a tape show after a pay-per-view. I understand that this is almost like a victim of its own creation. Everything is being wiped clean storyline-wise, and there's nothing they can do about it on this tape Thunder. But if that's the case, then bring the work rate up a little bit, because nothing about this show was redeeming.
You mean Rick Fuller and Sick Boy is not high work rate?
It's I don't know what you want to call it, man. But all I'll say is this: if you can't check off any boxes, if you're not going to have good matches, give me good story. If you're not going to give me a good story, then at least give me like decent enough recap instead of like this mishmash of, hey, here's the recap of, oh, here's the cat kicking Buff Bagwell in the head. Here's one where like Stevie Ray and Booker T, and here's one with like it just seems so mishmash and nothing that was explained. So overall, if you're grading this, it's like F's all around, man. And it's when it's that bad, it just makes me feel sad, because this was, not only was this like a bad Thunder, it's a Thunder I'm going to remember for being really bad. And that's like the worst thing. If you have a bad Thunder, then fine. It's like a clean shit. Break it off and hopefully you have a better one next week. But this is one I'm going to remember.
Well, hey, you know what? Then we can say it's at least a memorable Thunder.
Yeah. Cool.
But yes, terrible Thunder. Literally nothing happened. At best, we had some okay matches, but mostly terrible. Your main event had the match just thrown out. This was a pre-taped episode following a pay-per-view that actually aired, or that was actually aired after pay-per-view, but taped before the pay-per-view, if I ever saw one, right? And this is the garbage we expect to see, but we had Rick Fuller and Sick Boy, and Rick Fuller went clean. If you want to ask me, sum up this Thunder in 4 words or less, Rick Fuller won clean. That's all you need to know about this Thunder. That said, that is our show this week. If you haven't yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? We've done 71 episodes, including one where Rick Fuller just won clean. 71 episodes. We are into the heat of 99 on Thunder. So go leave us a review. Let us know how we are doing. Give us some praises, because God knows we need it sometimes. Give us a follow on social media at Thundercraps, and you can always go to thundercraps.com for all of our previous episodes. And then go watch a live episode of Thunder. It's got to be better than this one. It is Thunder 72. It is July 22nd, 1999. And we'll be right back here next week to review it. For Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercrest Podcast.
We are heart-punchingly out of time. See ya.